Okay, just getting this set up. Cool. I think we're good to go. Awesome. There we go. I can hear myself, so that means we are live. Okay. So, thank you for joining, everyone. Oops, I gotta get to the right group here. Sorry. 2 more seconds. I can't see the questions if I don't do it that way, so sorry about that. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about sex and sexuality. Okay, so for those that don't know me, my name is Paul Hanrider. I'm part of the group Awakening Through Sexuality, and basically I feel very called to show people a path back to their innocence and just basic lack of shame, lack of guilt, releasing that from our body around knowing our own body. And we can talk about sexuality on a bunch of different levels. I'm talking about our personal sexuality first. Before we start engaging with anyone else, we have to know our body, and we have to know that we're sexually created beings. We wouldn't exist without sex. And so the power of sexuality is off the charts. And what I'm here to share is to help get people to look inside, see where they're blocked in their personal sexuality and feeling pleasure in their body, and help them release that, and then start to make decisions around their sexuality with maybe another person from a place of self-love first, not of pleasing another person, not helping them feel good first, or any of those kind of things, getting this choice back to completely ours first. And then once we get to that choice, it becomes our fullest expression of self-love. So our fullest expression of self-love is to have awareness that we're able to give pleasure to ourselves, and that's our birthright. And people can look it up online, but you're going to find this, but fetuses inside the womb have been filmed in ultrasound and other things of touching their own selves, their genitals, for pleasure. And it's quite an interesting process, because we're in a world where we don't feel comfortable or safe. That's dirty. You're going to grow hair on your palms. You're going to you're not normal to be able to do this. And I'm going to speak from personal experience here, but my personal sexuality, the ability to have pleasure, orgasms, and to move that energy through my body, and we'll talk about how orgasms and pleasure work. Those are the things that have got me through some of the deepest lows in my life, the things that have allowed me to have pleasure when we're in a world now where there's viruses and other things where everybody's not feeling safe, where I can still move my energy and shift my energy and heal traumas and move through shadow and other things in my body just with my own personal self. I don't have to have a partner. I don't have to complete myself or please or any of these kind of things. And when we can understand pleasure in our own body, something very special happens, because really, honestly, we can't even engage with pleasure with somebody else until we know about what our body wants, what it needs, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, where our boundaries are, where our edges are, where our traumas are. Because to engage in that is just going to create more traumas. And if we don't understand ourselves, most of us are wandering around and just smashing into walls, smashing into our traumas, and really not healing, more likely just causing worse. So let's begin with this. So a human body, and part of the human experience is to have pleasure, to have bliss, to all facets of what we call sexuality. So that can be personal pleasure, that can be with a partner, that can be using aids like maybe pornography or toys, or then we can go into more the dark side of that, which is bondage and domination and sadomasochism, or the BDSM range, where we go to our edges and explore who we are, our darkness, our traumas, maybe past traumas that we've had in our life, like rapes or attacks, or a bad experience with a partner, or any of those kind of things. That's the full range of sexuality. And most of us don't have a way, so societally accepted, a way to have sexuality is that we have to find a partner and have to get married, and the church and other things make this acceptable and societally acceptable. But so they shame other things, like, okay, you can't have sex before marriage, but lots of people are doing it, and lots of people are having affairs and other things. So really, they're just hard and fast rules that people are ignoring anyways, and creating more and more trauma and more negative stuff going on in our life. So our bodies are always drawn to feel good. And that's a simple thing. Like I said, babies in the womb will start to touch themselves and have pleasure and other things because that feels good. Now, how much do you have pleasure and touch yourself in your own personal world? Well, that's got a whole bunch of things around it. The religion, I grew up Catholic, and it's like, oh, that's bad, that's shameful, and you got to wait for a partner. And it was actually a stonable offense for many thousands of years, where you couldn't give yourself pleasure, and you could get killed for doing it. Can you imagine how much trauma that is hidden in people's bodies? So when do you allow to get pleasure? Do you go in the bathtub? Do you touch that part of your body? Do you feel good? Does it feel good, or does it feel weird? Or it's like, oh, somebody's going to catch me, and you got to lock the door, and you feel all curled up and ashamed about it? Or is it this free loving thing where you're experiencing your body, you're touching and feeling and just feeling the gentle sensations of what feels good to you? Most people don't know that. They've kind of close themselves off, and then their sexuality is only with a partner, and it's maybe with the lights off, and it's under the covers and these things, where really we should be exploring this pleasure in our body first. So many young people, as they're growing up, they get into puberty, they start to get pubic hair and other things, and they're taught that it's not good to touch your body, it's not good to masturbate or give pleasure. So it becomes this shamed offense, and most skip this stage, and then they start going and pursuing sexuality with a partner. And guess what? None of them are actually taught about their bodies, how their anatomy works, what feels good, what's right. It's more about putting a condom on and not having an STD and not having a baby than it is about the beauty and the love and the affection for self. So that stage is kind of skipped for most people. So what I'm encouraging is that, because most people have skipped this stage, we need to, now in our adulthood, I don't know what age you're at this moment, but you need to get back into a healthy communication with your body. And most of our life is spent in fight or flight or anger or struggle or these kind of things. And then we go and try and explore our bodies, and we're not even in our body. When we're fight or flight and we're angry and we're scared, our auric field goes above here, and literally we disconnect from the genital part of our body, because that's our root chakra, our lowest chakra. All of a sudden those chakras aren't connected, so you can't even feel pleasure. You don't even feel sexual or an urge to have bliss or play or whatever. So what I try and show people is how to ground themselves in their body first, so they can start to get back an experience of feeling in their body. If you go and let's take your fingers right now and just pinch the inside of your thigh right now, does it really hurt? And do you feel like a sting, or is it kind of numb in some ways? A lot of people are going to feel kind of numb in some way, and there's the energy of our body isn't there. So we need to ground ourselves first. Something like sitting before you lay down in bed or whatever, just taking your socks off and putting your feet in the carpet, making curls with your toes. The Die Hard movie, they said that how you calm yourself after an airplane flight. Well, it's true, because you're literally pulling your energy field back into your body by doing that. Getting a partner or having a foot massager or something. That you ever noticed how your feet are really tickly at the beginning when a lot of people get their feet massaged? For me, it is. And then after a while, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, now all of a sudden the tickly's gone. Well, it's all that energy coming back into your body. And now all of a sudden you're fully in your root chakra, and you're fully in your genitals, and you're fully in your body. So to get people back into that feeling of, here's the normalization. Okay, I'm getting back in my body. Okay, now start to explore what feels good in your body. Go have a bath and get really grounded. Put some Epsom salts in the bath, have some bubbles there, some candles, get really calm and quiet. Get your body into like a parasympathetic release, which is like really calm, and you don't feel your heart pounding anymore, and you're just feeling good. Get out of that bath and then start explore sensuality. Use the towel and feel how that tickles the hairs on your legs or on your body, and what's wet feel like and slick, and what does dry and what does stingy kind of feeling or squishing feelings. There's all these different ways that our body can be explored. And if we start talking about things like that, any one sensation, like let's say you have a sensation that's like this, and if you did this for like 5 minutes, you'd start to lose sensation in your body, because your body needs a range of different feelings. But let's say you stop feeling it here, and then you start going like this, all of a sudden same thing. Holy cow, like that's fire, it's like burning, and holy cow, now you can start doing that on other parts of your body, and it can feel really good. What happens to squishing? Now all of a sudden, like that 5 minutes of after it gets numb, you got to vary up the sensation. That's why in pleasure and stuff like that, it can be like smacking or stroking or feeling or tickling or all these things. You start to get into that, and you start to move those energies, and you start to get your body percolating. Some magical things start to happen. It starts to feel good, and that body part starts moving energy, and you start to understand yourself. And in giving your body pleasure, we can start to do things like what we call edging. So edging is a process of going right up to feeling maximum amount of pleasure. It's like, okay, here's that point where I'm going to explode, and working up to that and feeling what sensations bring us to that, and how does that go? And then what if we change the sensation? Does it move you past the edge? Does it not? Once you start to understand what feels good, then your body starts to relax, and we start to move energy. Now, in pleasure and working with genitals, nipples, these kind of things, we can get into orgasmic pleasure, where we start to build up a level of energy and pleasure and bliss, where you're starting to feel energy moving in your body, and you can build up to the point where there'll be an energetic release. And that energetic release is something really, really, really important to the human body. So let's describe it this way. So imagine your body is something that's filling with, like let's say you're a vacuum cleaner, and you're just constantly processing whatever's going on in the world. The vacuum cleaner bag slowly starts to fill up with all the little dusts and all the little things that are mixed in with the energies that we're pulling in. And some of these things are beliefs, some of these things are fear, some of these things are anger, some of these things are building up in our system and blocking us, eventually saying, okay, that didn't feel good, so I'm not going to do that anymore. And we build all these rules, and we build up this armor, and it literally, consider your central channel. That's the little pipe that goes up and down, and each of our chakras rotate around that in different directions. Basically, if that central channel gets kind of clogged up with all that detritus or all the stuff that's not serving us anymore, it's like the vacuum cleaner hose. Eventually, once the bag gets filled up, the vacuum cleaner hose starts to fill up with stuff, and then you clean the bag out later, and you pull the hose off, and it's like got all this shit in it. Well, the release of pleasure, that orgasmic release that we start to have in our body, is kind of a massive explosion of energy. So if we're a vacuum cleaner, it'd be like a big suck of a massive amount of energy that's going to try and pull through that hose, and all the stuff that's blocked, all the different beliefs, all the anger, all the trauma, all the fear is stuck in each of these chakras. And you're going to feel it when you're having trouble in life or whatever. You get these tight spots. It's like, oh, my heart is tight, or my solar plexus is tight, or whatever. We build up these blocks over time of our energy. So all of a sudden now our pleasure energy can't go up and out the top of our head. It gets trapped in our sacrum. It gets trapped in our heart. It gets trapped in our throat. And all of you have felt this in some way. When you're having pleasure, you can't talk or you can't communicate. We have these blocks. Well, the orgasmic energy is basically like cleaning out your whole entire system. It has this beautiful effect. They call it, in French, they call it the petite mort, which is the small death. And it's this beautiful thing where your whole body just gets overwhelmed by this huge pleasure, bliss energy, and it basically smashes away all the stuff that's built up. So let's say it's like little bits of mud that have just built, and then I'll take the whole, and then this big blast of energy comes up. Now, over time, if you're not having that big blast of energy happening all the time, it'll get stuck somewhere. Like there's a big clog of hairball or whatever right there in your solar plexus, and you can't feel really heart-centered. You can't feel really excited, and it just kind of like goes flat, or you have trouble having pleasure at all. What happens when the orgasm comes? These beautiful things start to happen. So this big blast of energy comes up our central channel, and it'll push things out, and the clogs and all this kind of stuff. But if you're not having them enough, then it doesn't have that ability to clean it out. It also doesn't clean out some of the traumas. So our traumas that are in our body over time, think of them as like, okay, I have this big emotion, I got attacked, and I feel a lot of fear, and I'm angry, and I'm scared, and all this kind of stuff. So all of a sudden this bubble will build up, and it's like, oh, I don't want to deal with that right now. So we just build this bubble, and we say, okay, I'm not going to deal with that fear. And then what happens is our body just starts to build up these blocks that say, okay, I'm not going to have sexuality anymore. I'm not going to go to the bar. I'm not going to do all this kind of stuff. And it just keeps closing us off so that and we're trying to protect this thing from ever being touched. And then eventually they get pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. And then they end up in our lowest chakra and down in our genitals. And we have all this fear and tension and all these things that builds up, and these blocks in our channels. And these energies are just trying everything to come up so that we'll finally cry them out. We'll finally be scared. We'll finally be angry. We'll finally be whatever, so that that energy can be expressed. So emotion is energy in motion. It's basically stuff that's just supposed to be momentary in our system to say, okay, I'm scared, this is bad, or I'm not happy, or I'm afraid, or whatever. But instead we take them and say, I can't deal with this right now. We don't process them. And then we end up with all this pain and suffering in our body. And then it turns into disease and blocks and all these things. Once we get into the world and we start getting back into pleasure and orgasm, where we can give these things to ourselves, we don't have to chase with another partner and try and please and all that first. We just start doing this for ourselves only. And once we get comfortable with that, we can start to do this regularly, have pleasure, move that stuff. Once that stuff starts moving in our system, we also get this beautiful effect of serotonin, of oxytocin, of all these beautiful brain chemicals, even DMT, which is the spirit molecule, which is part of ayahuasca. We can have little bits of that released in our body through our orgasmic and pleasure, and it starts to make changes in our body. That we calm the central nervous system, that parasympathetic nervous system that's just like choking you all the time because you're scared, and am I going to lose my house, and am I going to lose my kids, or whatever. We start to release those serotonins and all these things. All of a sudden your brain is kind of happier. It just because those chemicals are there. You may have been turned off your whole entire life and you can't produce serotonin or whatever. Well, naturally you can get that back by getting back into your sexuality and your pleasure. So if we start using this natural part of our body and look at the world, it's controlled and it's shamed, this thing that's really powerful and really important for our body, and said you can't do it unless a priest says it's okay, and now you're married and all this kind of stuff. And then we're like, this thing that we really need for our body is stuck behind marriage or a relationship or whatever, when it doesn't have to be. This is this thing that's for me. So get out of it's dirty to give myself pleasure, get into this is a very healing part of my body, and it's needed. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's no pills, there's no medication. Guess what? Your body gives out exactly what it needs when it needs. So I want to invite people to start exploring pleasure in their body. And I've talked about some of the steps at the beginning, have a bath and get relaxed, and then start to go with pressure and touching. Do that to your genitals, your body parts, and start to feel what feels good. And then find a path where you can feel good without having to please anyone. This is myself and my body needs this and it's feeling good and I want this for me. And once you start to get to that point where it's yours and it's a decision you have, you're going to find out that you don't need those outside influences. And then once you get comfortable with this for yourself, then there'll be a draw. There'll be a draw to, you maybe need a partner to start to have a container. I want to deal with more of my emotions and more healing and go deeper, because relationship starts to mirror back to us the things that we can't see. But why are you jumping into a relationship if you got all this stuff that you already see and you haven't dealt with? Well, deal with it first. Once you start to deal with your personal discomfort and your personal blocks and all this kind of stuff, things start to flow. And then when things start to flow, you're going to draw people and partners into your life. And now you're going to be able to speak to those partners and say, this is the things I like. This is my body likes. And it feels really good when you do this. And how does it feel really good for you? And let's share this. And magic starts to happen because our body's starting to percolate. We're clearing that central channel all the time. And I'm going to tell you right now, when you're really having a bad day and things aren't feeling good, and the last thing you want to do is go out on date or whatever, go and spend some time with yourself and your body and touch and feel genitals, feel what feels good, explore your body, take a mirror, look at all that stuff. What's this look like? Is it good? Is it bad? Is there judgment on it? Why is it bad? Why is it good? Or whatever. And you start to slowly release all that shame. This is my human body, and it's special and it's good and it loves and it's doing the best that it can. And once you start to get comfortable with that, and then your body starts to trust you and it starts to know you're listening to it, beautiful things start to happen as well. All of a sudden the body will calm down and it'll relax. Maybe less disease will happen in that body. You'll start to self-heal and magic comes. And when we're completely able to be embodied in our body, we experience the world different. If we're afraid and we're way up here and it's like, oh, I'm just scared, and you don't have those beautiful chemicals moving through your body, it's very, very hard to get through it. It's clinical depression. It's all these things, but go to the doctor. He's going to give you a pill and it's going to come in a form that maybe your body doesn't like, or it has too much or too little or whatever. Well, you have this beautiful medicine cabinet that comes out of your brain in your orgasm and in your pleasure. So once I can guide you back to that point, then there's a whole bunch of other self-exploration that you can do with another person. But you have to get that relationship back with yourself first, and you have to get that trust back. You have to get that confidence of self, and magic happens. And it comes through our pleasure. It comes through our orgasm. We can start talking in future videos about how we can edge, how we can use fire breath orgasm, how we can maximize the pleasure that's going on in our body. What tools can we use? What techniques can we use? How does it feel? How do you explore it? And then once you have those kind of things and that in your awareness, then you go and you play with that stuff. And then you're uniquely qualified to then share with a partner. But most of us are running around without any understanding of our body, expecting our partner to give us pleasure. We're in fear, we're in fight and flight, we're not even in our body. We can't figure out why pleasure's not coming and why this isn't working out and why this is so hard and why I don't get an erection or why I don't get an orgasm as a woman or whatever. And then we're lost, and then it gets even worse. So once we can get playful and fun with ourselves, then we can start to get playful and fun with other people. And once we understand our body, we can say, hey, touch it this way, touch it that way, do this faster, slower, this feels good, etc. But most of our sexuality nowadays is exactly the opposite of that. It's like, okay, let's not talk, let's make a bunch of noises and be unsatisfied, let's fake our orgasms, let's whatever, because this is taking too long. Well, how can you even tell somebody if they're doing it right or doing it wrong if you don't even know what's right or wrong for you? That's the confusion that we're all living in. So I'm going to tell you the healing and the opportunity to know ourselves is something that's been taken from us. And all I wish is to guide people back to understanding their body, to feeling their body, to knowing what pleasure is in their bodies, so that they can start to choose in this now moment, stepping back to pleasure, stepping back to the birthright of pleasure. And then we can start exploring that with someone else once we're confident in ourselves. And no sexuality should be attempted until we get this level of understanding in ourselves, or else we have no calibration. We have no idea what good and bad, or what feels good, or that kind of stuff. And how you're going to be confused as hell trying to pleasure this other person, or share pleasure with them. And you're going to have to learn from them. And if you don't even know your own, you shouldn't even be starting to learn theirs. You should be learning yours first. And then you can say, okay, here's good. Let's try this. Let's make it about me for this 1 second, or this next 5 minutes. And then we're going to make it about you for the next 5 minutes. Starting to explore, not speeding up the system. Once you get comfortable and that's working one by one, you take a next step. But no, we all want to jump into dating and sexuality and marriage, and we don't even know ourselves. So, and moving of trauma, moving of trapped emotions is our biggest task. Our biggest task as an awakening person is to become into self-mastery. And self-mastery is essentially you understanding yourself, your body, your reactions, how things work, etc. before you ever start trying to do it with another person. And then the chances of more trauma, more shame, more things not working out, or discomfort or whatever become much, much lower, because you know your side of it. And then when we work from that, then we step up to next levels. And the next level is exploring that with another. The next level is initiations. There's these beautiful things that we can go through, and what we call alchemy. Once we understand our body and we start working with another person, the sexuality, the orgasms, the mixing of fluids, magnetic, electrical fields between a human masculine and feminine polarity, magical things start happening. You can literally go into an orgasmic state and kind of boil yourself and transmute stuff that's trapped in your body. People have felt this. And it's so much better when we have a partner to share it with, because they can sit there and hold a container. They can guide us through things. How many times have you had pleasure and you have a million different emotions show up? You're crying, you're screaming, you're sad, you're whatever, and you're terrified because you don't feel like you're in your body. Well, as we guide through the process of learning our sexuality, we can start to learn that this tremendous healing process, and it's this thing that can happen between a masculine and a feminine that's beautiful. And I'm not talking about just man and woman here. I'm talking polarities. So you can be in anybody and have these polarities and share sexuality with people. It's not about opposite types of genitals coming together. It's about our polarity, standing in the level of that polarity and holding space from the masculine side and the feminine side. And they're both beautiful, and they both have different alchemical, energetic, magnetic, chemical reactions. And once we get those chemical reactions happening in the body and they mix with the pituitary gland and we start moving energies up and down our chakras, sexuality becomes much more energetic. It becomes hugely powerful, and it can heal people. It can awaken people very quickly. But we got to start with the simple stuff. We got to start with getting in touch with ourselves before we start jumping into the boiling hot water of an alchemical reaction. So this is what we teach in Awakening Through Sexuality. As we move through the levels and we get confident with ourselves, changes happen to us. And once those changes happen, it kind of steps us up to a new level. And when we start jumping into new levels too quickly, those alchemical reactions can happen, and then your body's not prepared for them, and it can get very, very uncomfortable. Like things like Kundalini awakening, where you're just like, Kundalini is just starting to electrocute you, because you haven't grounded yourself. You're not fully in your body. You got all these traumas that are still inside. We can teach it through all these different processes to be able to get each stage, moving up. And as you're moving up at the proper levels, it doesn't get uncomfortable like that. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be, because we just don't have these systems. We're not moving the energy in our system. We're not clearing out the pipes. And if new stuff is coming up the pipe and it's at full power, and it's going to feel burning in your chest or burning in your body, and you don't know what to do because you haven't cleaned the space. And each time that comes up, it might be scary. Well, let's move that energy. Let's find a partner if that's what's needed to start to move that energy. They can guide it. They can hold a container for you. They can tap on the spot while the energy is going through you, stuff you couldn't probably do because you're not consciously aware of it. So sexuality is an integral part of being a human being. It's an integral part of awakening. And if we can learn these really, really simple things about ourselves and getting back in touch with ourselves, we can start to move and awaken very rapidly, move energy, move blockages, move trauma. And the quicker those can come through your body, the better it is. And you can do that either through suffering and pain and crying out your tears and feeling it bubble up and getting crushed by the world, or you can start to explore your sexuality, start to move those energies with pleasure. This is the way it was meant to be. Why do you think they blocked sexuality? Why did they think they've made it chained and all these things? Because it's so freaking powerful. And it will change people rapidly. And if you don't have them in your life, you're blocked and you're angry and you're frustrated. And now it's just to get that back into innocence and purity. Okay, my sexuality is mine. It feels good. If I choose to share it with a person, once I know who I am and I've cleared all my stuff and I know what my boundaries and stuff like that are, sexuality and relationship are going to be completely different. And once you have that completely different level, you move up to new levels of depth of sexuality and pleasure and energetic sexuality, and the magic that happens after that is like off the charts. So let's start healing ourselves. If there's any questions, put them below, and I'd love to hear your questions. I'd love to teach a workshop on this where we can be live and talk about things. Just say the word, and I'd love to get together a group of however many are ready, maybe 5, maybe 10 plus, and we'll show all this stuff. So I love you all. I thank you for listening, and I hope you see how this is starting to be important in our body, and maybe you'll see a part of yourself says, that's what I want. And it's going to be so much easier than doing it the other way with all the suffering and pain. I want people to learn this in pleasure for themselves. And once you have that gift, it just gets so much better from there. So I love you all. You have a great one, and talk to you soon.